Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel here today. Today we're going to be covering episode 16 of the Apothecary Diaries. Pretty happy to be covering the series once again, as I do every week. So I've got a little bit of extra knowledge. The extra knowledge is that 17 and 18 go together, so the idea here is to do 16 just by itself, so we line up next week to do 17 and 18 together instead of leaving it halfway. This also kind of helps with timing eventually. Eventually there's going to be a week where I need to do one, so it might as well just be this week as well. Kind of syncs up with other stuff on the channel and scheduling there anyway. Seems like a good opportunity, right? Because once we finish here today, then it'll be 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 and 24 to round us out. That's the way I would do it anyway, unless there's some other stopping point stuff I need to consider there. But either way, excited to be here. Comments, YouTube comments, of course. I've got 4 here today that we'll get through as the episode downloads, of course. First comment here from Kelvin, kind of going into Li Shu's main first lady in waiting, I guess you would call her, right? Specifically also her poison taster and that kind of story that happened there before with kind of, I guess, the poison taster learning about Li Shu's allergies and that kind of thing, right? It's less that she's being a spoiled brat and that kind of stigma that the rest of the kind of ladies in waiting have put on her. It's more that, like, she literally can't do it or she'll die. So, pretty bad. We probably shouldn't feed her food that'll make her allergic. So Kelvin's read into this, and I don't know, I guess this is kind of the truth. They're kind of looking out for each other a little bit more, I guess you could say. The read is that they're on better terms now. I see this as optimistic, but again, the evidence there being the scene in episode 11 where there's the running away from the... as our duo is leaving, right? And Li Shu runs over. The poison taste is the main one to run after her and that kind of thing. I saw that as more obligatory, but again, it could be read as genuine care for Li Shu and what she's doing and that kind of thing. That scene is really stellar as well. I love the implication of all this kind of ceremony to the scene, if you know what I mean, all this expectation, and then Li Shu being a child, like running over to a mother figure, kind of breaking all of the tradition there and that kind of thing, just breaking up the ceremony of it all. I think that's, yeah, pretty effective. I really liked that scene. So hey, maybe those two are on better terms. We'll never know unless it's explored even more. Bamps with the next couple of comments here. First one just kind of going into the poison honey thing from last week. We talked about it. Jinchi as not a eunuch. So I didn't do my research on what actually the kind of eunuch Jinchi would be. Whether it's cock, balls, or cock and balls. We just don't know. But either way, it's all semantics. It's all punishment. It's all going to hurt. It's all going to prevent you from having children. But that's the sticking point, right? What better place to hide a royal heir than the rear palace, right? If we're specifically hiding somebody, right? Again, I'm sure the emperor knows the truth and that kind of thing, but again, the emperor's brother, so to say, is so sick or whatever it is. He's kind of like holed up most of the time. Nobody ever really sees him. So if we're going to hide this guy in plain sight, then the rear palace is a really good place to do it. Also, hey, if this guy is genuinely royal blood, which he is, right, then you wouldn't castrate him just in case there was no other way to continue the royal kind of bloodline in that way, I guess. Kind of recontextualizes a lot of scenes, even the very start of the show. Gyokyo's child is now his, like, half-sister? Does that make any sense? Is that... yeah, that's how that works. Weird. Anyway, that's obviously the biggest thing to think about, kind of implications going forward-wise, I guess. But yeah, he's probably not a eunuch, I'm with you, unless there's something that he's done in his past that was worthy of such a punishment. Also, yes, smartly spotted here by Bamps, a little bit of Chekhov's gun, maybe, with the whole kick to the crutch thing from earlier in the show. Maybe. Keeping an eye on it. Yeah, and I guess you would call it, what was her name? Lao Lan? Lao Lan is a goth GF. I guess you could say that. Probably oversimplifying it. I really liked her scene. I want to see more of her character. I think that's probably further in the season a little bit more. I would imagine that we deal with Lacan a little bit earlier than that kind of stuff. Last comment here from Gus N, just explaining about the dust explosions and that they can happen, and that Mythbusters did something with a cannon that made a big fireball or something, and it was awesome apparently. So yeah, if Mythbusters did it, then it's probably pretty legit. Discord alerted me to this as well, but Gus N gets the credit because he commented it on YouTube, so shoutouts to that. Yeah, so apparently this was a pretty well-known thing. Obviously wouldn't be as well-known in... I think 16th century China, I think, is where we are. So fair enough. it denotes a smart character if they can figure out something like that anyway. And with that, we'll close out the YouTube comments right here. Let's get those patrons up and about. Let's do that. As always, if you wanted next week's reaction 1 week early, Patreon is linked in the description below. $6 for that early access, of course. Many people have done this, up to and including Mickey Babbers, Trials++, Anders Harlan, Bobbin, Chobo Ribby, Domobot, Ed, Fancy Question Mark, Fleur Nightingale, Fried Rice, Fruit, Gloriana Tenebrae, Glyke, Gus N, Heath, Hex, Ika, Yako Yavanen, Joran, Kelvin, Kimskell, Clem, Nosta, Kot Begemot, Lou, Mish, Mistake El Chen, Nailu, Parnik, Pencil Sharp 333, Ron Lad BNK, Saint Lily, Sal, Sam1373, Skeleton, Vueko, Without a Net, Zan Echo, Zach, Binchi, Hans Peter, Marsh, Voodoo Chili, Aiden O'Brien, and Yuna Meme. Thank you to all those people for giving me money and so forth. I like money. So yeah, as I kind of explained in the show, or what's going on in the show just there before, Lacan and that kind of stuff, I think that's the priority early before we go into the extra consort and what all that means and that kind of side of it. So Lacan, the big reveal at the end there, right, was that he has explicit ties to Verdigris House, specifically explicit ties to the courtesan that is now comatose. I think she's in a coma, something like that. Essentially, he took a liking to her. She could have been bought out for a lot more money and that kind of thing, so he couldn't have her. So as you do with most things, or as he does with most things, I guess I should say, he ruined it for everybody. And I think poisoned her, and that's had long-lasting effects on her life as well as Mau Mau's. I'm seeing some explicit ties between this character and Mau Mau. Maybe a very formative character for Mau Mau in her early years and so forth. Obviously, this makes Lacan like the big villain, the arch villain, almost like Mau Mau's arch nemesis, as I said last week. So obviously, that's our jumping off point here. How is Mau Mau going to deal with this? Is she going to confront Lacan or Jinshu with any of this information, or is she going to say, well, for the best if I keep this to myself and just keeping a low profile and that kind of thing? Obviously, that Mau Mau conflict coming out very much here. Will she be able to maintain that level of distance when it's something so personal to her? Obviously, the direction we're going, I think. So yeah, let's jump into episode 16 of the Apothecary Diaries and see where we go from there. Discord if you want to talk to me about the show more, like the video, subscribe. Let's do this thing. Let's jump in. Rightio, I have episode 16 up there ready to go. 22 minutes and 50 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly with your own copy. I'll have that picture-in-picture in the description below, but for those that aren't using that, subs please version, of course. Should be very similar to what's available on streaming. So yeah, let's jump in with a 3, 2, 1. Rightio, 3, 2, 1, go. And I am recording, which is always good as well. Oh, I love this opening. I was very happy with my little opening analysis that I did last week as well, kind of re-examining some of that stuff in the middle portion. Again, one of the biggest indicators to me was that a lot of this opening is in the rest of the show, if you know what I mean. Like, these are literally scenes that are going to take place in the order of events. So what is that? We're probably going to see something that looks similar to that. I should read into a Blue Rose as well, especially with more exploration of this character from the past. Decaying as well. Talked about this a lot last week. The nail polish. This sequence. Fantastic. It's barely 4 seconds and it's brilliant. It's a little bit sad. I was thinking about this as well. There's not much of the show, like, left. I kind of just want the whole story now. But again, unrealistic. Shit happens, I guess. I guess I could read it. But it would be kind of spoiling myself, obviously, for the channel. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, the lead-in with the will, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I wouldn't have read that as enthusiasm. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, this is some fucking knives out bullshit. I agree. Is there preference? Bro, he gave the oldest son property. The most valuable thing there is. The rain, bro. Hmm. I'm just thinking about rain along with a lot of our flower metaphors as well. Oh, same shot again. That's funny. Lead or lead, I don't know. Yeah, this is like the same shots. That's so funny. Yeah, Barsen's definitely suspicious. Or is he harmless? We don't know. Sup? Barsen Sama, you reckon? Um, what is that? I wonder if it'll become relevant. Looks like a bunch of garbage. Hmm. Look at all these freaks. Yeah, they look way older. Yeah, you got to get all these items together and solve a puzzle, I fear. Yeah, I wonder if it's the mysterious drawer with the keyhole. You're a freak. Also, shave. Shave yesterday. Good old tall man. Some Dunmeshi BS. It's a puzzle. Every puzzle has an answer. Indiana Jones bullshit. What is this? Not the secret technique. Oh yeah, this is some light reflection BS. Put it on the spot. You guys are morons. Put these guys in a Resident Evil game, they wouldn't last a second. Oyaji. Mum? Like the lighting in this scene. You don't say. Come on, Mau Mau. Is it as simple as I think it is? What? Who is he? Does he? Well, they're not the same guy. That was a very Gaussian kind of mannerism, I guess. To just kind of look at her for a bit. All three of the pieces must work together in tandem. Give me the damn fishbowl now. Should you set a goldfish in the sun like that? I don't know. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Get ready, chat. Oh shit, it's pretty strong then. Oh, it's gonna melt the wax or something that's inside? Oh, that looks awesome. Yeah, something like that. Put the key inside. Yeah. I literally heard it sizzle. What an odd thing to ask. Go off. Hmm. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Oh, that's pretty clever. Oh, and then we're tying it back to that other thing that was on the shelf, are we? Are you guys stupid? Hmm. It's a good lesson. Oh, yeah, that would be clever too. It's not my place to say. Alright, I'm the only one that knows now. I guess I can make infinite money. He's too nice. Oh, Arthur meme. Okay. I mean, we can. Oh. Oh. Okay. Face turn. Sue. Yeah, you're nice. If we work together, if we blend all the metals together, they become stronger. Yeah, we're gonna like leave. Basen's done with this shit. Yeah. Yeah. Advertise for dad. True. Okay. What an odd thing to say. I get it. It's thematic stuff. Keeping an eye on her, huh? You're still here? Don't you have a job to do? Hmm. Yeah, I like that line of dialogue too. Hmm. Yeah, you're talking in riddles. Yeah, there's many different aspects to a business. I'll tell you that right now. What an odd thing to say. I agree. Lock on. I would like to hear it as well. About Vertigress House. This motherfucker. uh, he's a very good screen presence though. Okay, goodbye, evil, evil man. Jinji, he's fucking with you. You know that, right? A fair bit. For what purpose? I mean, I will. What do you want to look like? I didn't know that Jinchi did that kind of thing, but sure. That episode was kind of nothing. Nah, again, I think reading into why Mao Mao has the response to the story that she does is the interesting part. To my eye, it was a very, very, very simple mystery that I solved immediately. I'm pretty sure most of the audience would have as well. Um, the real intrigue comes with the Lacan stuff after and that kind of thing, and then whatever comes next. But again, timing wise, we just need to kind of do this episode here today. Shit happens, eh? Again, maybe the whole story about the metalworking and that kind of thing will reveal itself a little bit more as we continue. I'm guessing there's some more meaning there for Mao Mao, in so much as being the talented younger sibling, so to speak. and kind of interpreting that in some ways. So yeah, the episode felt very claustrophobic. We're all in the same room. I don't know. Not my favorite. Sniffing his hand. Oh, I see. I see. Okay, that's pretty intriguing. I like that quite a bit. So that's those two characters I didn't recognize from the opening. Oh my god, they were the two main characters all along. Yeah, okay, that caught me off guard. I liked that. Yeah, well, this video will probably end up being a lot shorter than I thought it would have been, but yeah, we'll go back through and watch that episode again. Why not? Rightio, that was episode 16 of the Apothecary Diaries. I've made my kind of peace with it, I guess. It was a little bit more of a low-key episode, one that I figured out the mystery for relatively early in the piece. Well, at least most of it. And then again, when it showed its kind of metaphorical meaning as well, again, attaching that to Mau Mau and so forth is where you find a lot of the meaning. Obviously, that conversation with Lacan at the very end of the episode is quite good as well. Other than that, I didn't see a ton. To be completely honest, I found the three side characters of this episode to be fucking annoying. All the brothers. Yeah, all of them. Even the little one that's like nice. He was just kind of whiny and stuff. I don't know. Maybe the voice acting there wasn't up to the standards of the rest of the show, I would say. Again, the intrigue there is obviously the Lacan side, the Basen side, what's going on there. Obviously, I think at this point Basen is the rat, is the mole, I guess. He's like Lacan's little lackey boy, keeping a watch on Mau Mau and seeing how she does in these trials as we're continuing to try to hone in on her talent and expose it and so forth, right? I think where this becomes a little bit more interesting is next week, and that's why I've highlighted what's on screen right now, and again, what was in that preview. So, for reasons unknown to me right now, Jinchi wants to shed his identity and become somebody else, and we're kind of feigning that it's a day on the town, but there has to be some other reason behind it, right? Are you trying to gather information by putting on a disguise, the both of you? Is it something to do with Lacan? Are we trying to find something out there? What is Jinchi's plan in all of this? Why does he want to do such a thing? So that's one level to it. Another level, I think, is having a cute date between our two vaguely romantic leading characters. And I think that'll be cute as well. It'll be nice to see them kind of shed their identities, right? So much of their characters up to this point has been about whatever their social status is. Mau Mau often stepping away from situations based on her kind of servant girl kind of social status. She doesn't think that she belongs there. If she speaks out, she'll be killed and fucking die. Because again, that's just how this world works when it comes to this kind of thing. Obviously, Jinchi's character is all about expectation and social status and even hiding one's social status. So even taking this a step further and shedding that kind of Jinchi identity as well is another level to it, which I really appreciate. So yeah, this seems like it's going to be cute and insightful next week. I can't wait. But yeah, we had this episode this week, so we must talk about this episode instead. I'll go through and I'll try to talk about some things that I didn't see on the first watch, I guess. One of the first things I wanted to talk about is rain. So there's a frame a little bit later on where the rain is falling on, kind of shadowed on Lacan's face, right? He's being associated with a downpour, right? A bad omen, I guess you could say, in a storm. But again, that metaphor is twofold, right? A storm is a bad omen, yes, but a storm also brings rain, and rain is fuel for plants and flowers and that kind of thing. A metaphor that's been largely associated with Mau Mau. So again, he is trying to bring out her potential by raining on her, right? Whether that rain is wanted or not. And again, this is something that Mau Mau's trying to avoid, and Mau Mau is then faced with the challenge, right? Use the water for growth. Use this water to grow out of who you are right now into somebody else, or drown in the downpour, in the deluge. And I don't know which one she's going to do quite yet. But yeah, I like seeing that metaphor kind of extrapolated upon a little bit more, right? Pretty cool. So there's some early stuff here that I like from Mau Mau. Like, Jinchi seems exasperated, right? He normally doesn't hesitate to bring me trouble and to speak his mind. I think that on some level is what interests Mau Mau, right? Why is Jinchi showing hesitance here, right? And then we start to explain the story. So, just general gist. There's a metal worker. He has 3 sons. He has a will because he died. The will is troubling. There is some kind of weird element to it where the oldest brother gets a house, or a shack, I guess I should say. The middle brother gets a piece of furniture, which is bolted to the ground within the shack, and then the little brother gets a fishbowl, which we don't know the use for quite yet, but has a very, very obvious use. Again, as I'll continue to explain in the kind of mystery here, this is a metaphor for the brothers staying together and working together, right? The fishbowl is kind of worthless on its own. It needs to be within the shack, and the shack houses the piece of furniture, which can't be moved, right? It's bolted to the ground. And the eldest brother just owns the property. He can't move the property. So again, all three of these disparate instruments to find out the secret are in the same place. We have to stay together like old times. I'm troubled about my general family and how they'll go after I'm gone. I feel like I'm kind of on my last legs. Kind of a clever little puzzle to bring the brothers together, of course. Ending in a happy ending, of course, where the brothers do go into business together and will stay together for the foreseeable future. Again, now that the mystery is out there, I can just kind of talk about the character stuff, which I find a little bit more interesting, right? Just this kind of back and forth in the scene between Jinchi and Mao Mao about why do you care? Why are you bringing this up? Just these kind of questions that they have of each other based on their expectations from the rest of the show thus far. There's some other general things I like, but they apply to all the other episodes as well when we're kind of demonstrating elements of the mystery. A lot of the visual design is quite well. I like this kind of panning shot downwards as we show the different items that all the brothers got, kind of giving them some character detail but hiding their faces at this moment, giving them a little bit of that silhouetted look, just kind of gives off the feeling of getting elements of a case without actually getting all the pieces necessary. Also, is Mao Mao stupid? So he says fishbowl here, right? A fishbowl generally is see-through. Why would she envision like a ceramic thing? Maybe she thought fishbowl in so much as using something to cook fish, but no, fish bowls are generally for goldfish that you would like put them in and look at them and stuff. Like that's the whole point. It has to be see-through. Well, that's a fun element as well. So again, looking at it, right, the oldest brother gets the piece of property, the middle brother gets a piece of furniture, the youngest brother gets a fishbowl. There's kind of a descending scale of value there, you would say. But again, to the kind of to the opinions of the older brothers, the youngest was the one that was doted upon the most and was the most talented and all these other things. He was the one that was valued the most, right? So the will is kind of inverse in that way to what they would have thought, which is an interesting kind of thought to have as well. Maybe, again, the father trying to demonstrate that he values these other two sons as well, even this early in the piece. I think where this episode falls apart a little bit for me personally is that, okay, yeah, the mystery is one level to it, but this show's been so good about having another level and even sometimes another level on top of mysteries, right? I already know what the other level is. We saw Lacan last week show us this mystery. We know that he's setting up Mao Mao. We know that he on some level is kind of testing her and checking on her and that kind of thing, right? Again, when that is something we find out after the fact, that is quite interesting, right? It recontextualizes things. It allows me to think about it again. This is just kind of the nth degree of the same thing with the flare explosion, right? And the other one, the seaweed, right? It's the same thing again. Lacan's still testing you, Basen's still here. It's just kind of a reinforcing of these things we've already seen. It feels quite repetitive, I think. Yeah, repetitive to the level of obviousness, right? And speaking of repetitive, we've like literally seen this shot before. Like this shot into that shot into that shot is literally in the previous episode when we see Basen, right? Or Basen, I should say. Again, the people that make the show, they're not dumb. They know that they did this, right? It is purposeful. It is meant to give Mao Mao a sense of deja vu as well, right? This is very similar to the last one. This will contribute, of course, to Mao Mao ultimately figuring out what's going on here and who's testing her and so forth, before it's revealed to her, I guess. There is clues here that Mao Mao is picking up on subconsciously that a few things here are fucking kind of weird. Again, she already kind of got a hunch of who was involved before, but kind of shoved that hunch way back down. She can't stop thinking about it. I'm sure this is only more fuel to that fire. I'd love a little bit more dialogue in the episode from Mao Mao in that regard, kind of alluding to this. Alluding that she's like, this is kind of strange. This is a weird coincidence, right? Maybe there's a little bit in this line, like, if he's harmless, I don't mind, considering the fact that he could be harmful. Maybe. Again, that's squinting at it, though. Specifically as well, I don't know how society works around here, but Basen-sama is what he called him. That's a pretty large signifier of somebody that's higher class. Is this something that we would have expected from this guy relative to a, metalworker's son, potentially? I don't know how society works within that regard, but again, Basen seems to be important, and people know that he's important. If you wanted to be quite cynical about it as well, there's the relation between Basen and kind of Gao Shun that Mao Mao kind of picks up on through the middle of the episode, that they are quite similar to each other, right? Is Basen maybe the Gao Shun to Lacan? Like, as Gao Shun is to Jinchi, Basen is to Lacan. Does that make any sense? I think that's kind of what's going on here. We also see this trash on the wall here. This is an indicator of the metalworking technique that we'll see later on. Maybe talking to Mao Mao's intuition that she picked it up this early. So now comes the point in the episode where I stop talking as much and just kind of let them say the elements of the mystery that I've already kind of explained, and you guys have already seen the episode as well. Like, I don't think I should need to talk about this more than once, I guess. Like, hey, there's a piece of furniture in the middle of the room, and there's a window, and there's the light, and there's the keyhole, and you guys know what's going on. Yeah, these guys are so stupid. This window's the most conspicuous thing in the world. It's the only window in the entire room. It's facing the sun, and there's like a fucking piece of furniture sitting there with like a square where something needs to go. Like, are they stupid? I don't know. Again, it was way in the past. Again, it's literally fiction. Again, they're metal workers. I don't know about the general level of puzzle-like intelligence there, I would say. But again, the video gamer in me, the gamers in the audience, they would know what's going on here. Again, a few smarter things I'm noticing here on the rewatch. I like how Mao Mao deduces who each of the brothers are as she goes. I think that's quite nice. Also like this signal here to Basen to like basically stall. Okay, I think I've found something here, and then he sits down and it's like, explain more, because otherwise they'll just kick them out immediately. Like, him sitting down is like, okay, Mao Mao's found something here, let's let her work, let her cook. More to my discussion about the interpretation of the value of the items as well. Despite, like, literally the scale I was talking about before, of the kind of value of these things in the will, the brothers still see it the other way. I still would have rather had the ceramic kind of fishbowl thing, right? Or not ceramic, glass fishbowl, right? At least you could sell it for a higher price. I can't even move my drawers. Again, it's almost like they're purposefully missing what they themselves have and instead are desiring what the brother has, right? Where the brother can see the value in all of it, right? And there's that difference in perspective there. Again, that's reflected in the conclusion of the mystery here. So much of the visual design of this segment does the heavy lifting as well. I wonder why the light is reflecting off the drawers and the keyholes in the center. Again, we're just seeing it presented visually in a way that makes too much sense, right? Even again, looking now, these symbols that are on each of the drawers, like obviously they're signifying each of the brothers and that kind of thing, right? The older brothers don't seem too fond of the younger brother. We've seen this explored in the rest of the skit here already, kind of chastising the brother for getting the better thing in the will, even though they got the better things and they can't see it. The brother there wants to immediately explain that dad wants us to have a tea party here and be together as a family. If we work together as a family, we can find the solution to the mystery and the secret and so forth, and you know, bring the family together. The younger brother recognizes this immediately, but isn't forthright enough to come out and say it, again, in front of the two brothers that don't like him very much. I'm imagining this is the mother coming in here, telling them to play nice, essentially. Each of the brothers has a set seat position during the tea parties. I'm imagining at some point this is maybe where the father sat, or maybe there's something a little bit later in the episode where we see them all working together and the youngest brother may be sitting here now as well. It's clearly like something needs to go in this center spot. The most obvious being the fishbowl, of course, to make the light go down. This kind of image here of both of the boys here face palming is kind of my reaction to a lot of this mystery, and Mao Mao for that matter during this mystery. Like, again, it's unfair to force it upon the show that she needs to outsmart me every single time, but when I'm that far ahead of her, all her little deductions here look less smart and a little bit more, I guess, stumped, I would say. Stunted. Yeah, again, I'm just so used to Mao Mao outsmarting me and knowing stuff about flower bombs and so forth, that, yeah, when she doesn't figure out something immediately, I'm kind of like, We'll get to it. Come on. I've shouted out this element before, but I'll do it once again. When she's doing her deduction stuff, I think a lot of the kind of effects on the backgrounds there and the clues that she's thinking about is quite well done. The blue filter plus the kind of a grainy filter over the top. It's like she's remembering in real time. I think it's quite effective. And a really fun shot there too. Look at this like deduction shot. Hang on, let's play that whole thing. Kind of from here. Yeah, fucking awesome. Hell yeah, that's very well done. We finally get the fishbowl on the pedestal and we're going to get some water, which will again reflect the light and make the whole thing work, of course. I do like the characterization of the youngest brother here. He seems genuinely like nostalgic about the old times when all the brothers used to be in the same room and that kind of thing. Again, before the older siblings became a little bit more jaded and cynical about the whole affair, relating it to this goldfish, right? This thing that we used to come together and care for. That kind of thing hasn't been around for a while. Again, let's do tea parties like we used to. Thus, there would be goldfish. Thus, there would be water on that pedestal. Thus, we can solve the mystery. As predicted, we have the fishbowl here kind of focusing the light in, I guess I would say, through the pattern on the glass. I don't know how he developed this fucking Uncharted puzzle bullshit, but he did. So shoutouts to the dad. Now we have a light puzzle to deal with. The light is extremely focused and hot, much like a magnifying glass, you know? So don't touch it. You may burn yourself, you may blind yourself, that kind of thing. It's going to work right in on that keyhole and melt whatever's inside. Now this is where it gets a little bit more creative for me and I can start to praise it a little bit more unironically. I like that it's like a soldering type agent inside, right? So it'll actually like melt down and become something else. That's really cool. Using the heat from the light to do something like that is really quite awesome. It kind of adds this kind of metalworking flair to whatever the hell's going on, right? I also really like this effect here of the sunlight. I think it just looks really pretty. You can account for at least one really creative, pretty shot an episode in Apothecary Diaries, and that's something that should be praised. Lo and behold, after the sunlight goes away, kind of goes behind a branch there for a moment, the lock is hot, the key fits perfectly, and we've solved the mystery. Hooray. Am I stupid? She starts talking about the father suffering, like, anemia and depression and all these other things, and something about a soldering agent. What is going on? Is that alluding to how the father died, maybe? I've got no clue. I don't see how A relates to B there at all. As always, shoutouts to the diagrams and that kind of thing. Doing wonders. A very simple diagram here, but explains the concept just perfectly. I guess this is that next level that I was talking about before, when Mau starts to consider her own father and her relationship to him within this, right? The father saying techniques should be seen and stolen when Mau tries to go out on her own, obviously gets herself sick, learns that lesson, and kind of imparts that lesson onto the guys here in the situation, kind of gets the feeling of what fathers actually want for their children. Like he wants the technique to be passed down. He doesn't want it to, like, this isn't a joke, I guess. There's, like, actual meaning to what's going on here. Obviously, it's a metalworking technique, and we've got 3 separate metals. The drawers are of separate sizes. Potentially, that's a ratio. We've got lead and tin, and then whatever this third thing is. If we mix all these things together, we'll create the strongest metal with something about a temperature point as well. I don't know, man. This is the technique. We're like literally seeing it explained right here. It's just a little bit more abstract than a piece of writing on a paper. So Mau figures out that technique, the metalworking technique, very early, but pulls herself away, thinks it's not her place to say such a thing, and she was right in this regard. It turned to the brother. He was the one that made the move here, and he's the one that's closest associated with the actual story. It'd be weird if Mau just said the technique. We wouldn't have this emotional moment. There's definitely an absolute 11th hour face turn for the 2 other brothers here. We have the youngest kind of exclaiming that we want to work together and that kind of thing, and then we learn why the brothers are so standoffish about it, right? You're different from us. It comes from a place of jealousy, right? Like the older brothers believe that they became estranged from their own family based on the dad's focus on the younger son. They kind of projected their own inadequacy outwards, and this is the result, a broken family in the very end. Of course, it takes kind of the blending of all these metals to kind of repair this relationship in that way, kind of the metaphor working there to assist in that way as well. The dad actually did value the other talents of the other brothers. Of course, the youngest is the best at the actual metalworking side, but that's not what, you know, a business is about all the time. You need different aspects in a business to make it run, right? So you're good with customers. That's amazing. Customer service manager, everybody. Thank you. And then we have the accountant guy. He's, you know, very precise and kind of he keeps his ducks in a row. He can deal with the money side of the business. works perfectly. These guys should work in tandem, meld their talents together into one solid, different alloy. And then that's the kind of metaphor for the business. Again, you kind of see what's going on here. It's pretty obvious stuff. We could even see maybe the father reflected off the light here. If he's up in heaven or some other equivalent, right, then he could be shining the sun down on this particular spot, making all of these pieces work together as well. And then, of course, Mau Mau. How does Mau Mau feel about this? This kind of, these siblings coming together and kind of, you know, the dad's dead and they've kind of tried to bring all their talents together and that kind of thing. How is my relationship with my own father in that regard? Well, again, heavily implied that that's not her biological father, so that's already some kind of weird stuff going on there. Who's the mum? I've already talked about that a ton as well. This could even be relating to whoever this other character is, this kind of Onesan type courtesan who was at Verdigris' house that got poisoned, right? These kind of family bonding sessions could get her a little bit melancholic, I guess, that she doesn't have such a thing or such a thing was taken away from her. And again, this side for Mau Mau coming through and kind of thanking her father in her own way by doing the advertising for him, something which she's done in the past as well. Again, seems like it's out of the blue, but again, it got Mau Mau kind of nostalgic, got her thinking about the father, obviously advertise the business. We end this scene, of course, with Basen keeping an eye on Mau Mau, the thing which I've theorized that he's been here to do the entire time. His eyes firmly on her. She's doing exactly what Lacan's saying she's going to do. She might be special or something to that effect. And now we have this final scene with Lacan, who talks in a lot of riddles here, which is quite frustrating. He's a very villainous type. So the first thing he says here is like, oh, that thing got solved. I guess the youngest son truly was the most skilled after all. You're talking in code. You're talking about Mau Mau, the thing you're actually trying to test, and she was most skilled. The youngest one indeed. He suddenly started to show that skill of his. She suddenly started to show that skill of hers. Wow. They say that he'll take his father's place and begin selling his metalworks to the palace. They say that she'll take her big sister's place and start to do whatever she was doing. See where we're going? Yeah, I think that's what he's getting at. He's holding the glass and looking at the glass, the poison glass, the entire time. You guys see what I'm doing here? Either way, the brothers are working all together, fishbowl still in the right spot, sun still shining through, of course, the two brothers sitting in these positions, the father's position remaining unoccupied, of course, being represented by this sun, and then, of course, the brother off to the side. Again, Lacan speaking in riddles. In other words, they all found their place. Lacan implying here something to the effect of, we're showing off her talents now. At least she's able to show off her talents and she's not keeping them hidden. Now, this is another big question mark and something to keep in mind, but I already know that I'm going to forget, so maybe a YouTube comment to make me remember would be nice. So I'm getting a ritual utensil here, and that is something that seems like it's personally indignant towards Jinshi. So what's going on there? If we, 19 minutes? If we jump into the opening here quickly, we see kind of Jinshi, I think, implied to be doing some kind of weird ritual thing. Yeah, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is this whole shebang here? And again, I'm thinking this is Jinshi. Is this the ritual utensil we're implying? I do not know, but it could be. Jinshi tries to press him on this, that the ritual utensil would be of no use to him. I wonder why you brought it up. But then he kind of cuts him off and says, I don't want to keep good talent buried. Now, this is Mau Mau thematic stuff that we're tying in here as well. She wants to hide her talent, keep her flower in, hide her good looks with the makeup. She wants to dull all these things about herself to just kind of coast by and not get killed. Lacan, in a very villainous way, is trying to pull this talent out of her. Again, much like the rain metaphor that I talked about at the very start of this segment. So yeah, that's clearly what's going on here. It can be seen as both a blessing and a curse that we have this kind of character here. Obviously, he's outwardly villainous, but bringing this side out of Mau Mau is also a good thing, ultimately, right? Hopefully that good thing gets brought out in turn, this talent, to thwart you. That would be the ideal. Jinji starts to see through a little bit of the conversation here, what he's getting at. I see what he's trying to do. This is the kind of ability that he's used to climb so high through the ranks, despite nobody even liking him. The subtext of the conversation, of course, is talking about Mau Mau. This prompts Jinshi then to bring up the courtesan story from before, of course thinking about Verdigris' house and Mau Mau's connection there. Of course, Lacan sees through this and then says, hey, why don't you ask Mau Mau yourself? That's essentially what he's saying here. Yeah, you should direct that inquiry towards someone who would know that world. Implying that you don't. Haha. Again, yeah, we see what's happening here. This is a great scene. This, yeah, I won't say it redeems the episode, so to say, because I don't think the show or the episode in general needed redemption. But this is definitely the most interesting part. Yeah, just Lacan being a fantastic screen presence as well. You can never quite know what he's thinking. He's just this real shrewd type. I really, really like it. Ending the scene here of give this to your serving maids. What's the descriptor here? It's a good drink, not too sweet. Maybe there's something in that that'll give Mau Mau another clue towards something. And again, a sweet drink versus alcohol versus bitter versus all these other different tastes that's kind of going on in the show, especially as a taste tester. Yeah, you're definitely still cooking for sure. Yeah, very, very fun scene. I like this. Oh, so this is clearly our lead-in. Gao Shun kind of interrupts Jinchi as he's kind of exasperated after the conversation. I hate to do this while you're so tired, but we don't get to hear that side, and then we cut to the scene where Jinchi's like, do my makeup. So clearly something with what Gao Shun is about to say involves itself in this. It's less a Jinchi plan per se, and more a Gao Shun requirement of what he should do at this time, right? Either way, Jinchi looks pretty hot here. Do my makeup for me. That's a nice little teaser for the next episode and what will occur. As I kind of said before, if we go to this preview, we kind of see a little bit of what's going on in this kind of costume change of the characters. Definitely Jinchi looking very, very different here for sure. Not to mention Mau Mau herself, but we've seen her kind of change form, I guess you would say, a few times already. Yeah, some really fun character design details here that are quite different. Very, very good makeup work, I will say. So yeah, shoutouts to that. This will be next episode. It seems at least 4 to 5 times more interesting than what we did here today, but sometimes you just get a little bit unlucky with the timing there. Yeah, potentially there would be some ways to remedy that if people were to comment in the future about certain things and certain times and that kind of thing. Like, hey, if these two go together, then maybe do a few weeks before, do one that's a little bit more better as a one-off episode. I think I could have did maybe the first episode of this new kind of arc by itself in a lot of ways. Maybe. Anyway, it's done now. It is what it is. And we'll return next week for 2 more episodes of the Apothecary Diaries. I wouldn't say this episode was ever bad, but definitely a little bit more low-key for sure. Quite repetitive, and the mystery itself maybe needing a couple more rewrites in my personal opinion. But there were some good things in it, as I explored before, and we will be back next week to do some more. Patreon, if you wanted to see next week's 1 week early, you can access that at your leisure. Discord is available. You can talk to me about the show. I like hearing from people. It's good. Like the video, subscribe, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching this week, and yeah, see you next. Bye-bye.